Isn't this incredible? We've managed to come all the way out onto the western side of Arathusa and catch up with the Nkuhuma Pride lazing in the beautiful morning sun. And you can see that it is a very lazy start to the day. We've got the one lioness flat on her back, completely passed out, and then the little cubs that are just starting to wake up a little bit. They have, I think, heard in the background, because we're very, very close to the Arathusa itself. I think they're busy cutting the lawn, so in the background there is a lawnmower going, and I think that's what they've heard, and that's why they're so awake and are very curious as to what this noise is. There's also a little bit of a grooming session going on. So last night, after eating that impala that they had, or so should I say the early hours of this morning, there'll be little bits of meat and little bits of blood that they're getting rid of, and so nothing like getting a good cleaning from your mum. Now, because we're all the way out at Arathusa, we're having a few issues with our communication, so I'm just trying to get our comms right so that I can actually hear Lou and not have to try and type and use my cell phone to hear her or to know what's going on. But isn't that spectacular? Look at how incredible that is. And the light this morning is so beautiful. Oh, you see that tick there, Viam? On the whisker line, she has a tick. Now, with all the long grass that we've got currently at the moment, it's inevitable that these cats are going to pick up quite a few ticks. I know Steph was complaining about them last night, saying that they were on his arms, and so they latch on around there. But luckily, or unluckily for the tick, is that being around the whiskers is where the tongue can reach, and so I'm sure that tick is going to unfortunately get pulled off quite quickly, which is nice for the lioness, but not very nice for the tick. The tick will be thoroughly unimpressed, but you can see it there, just between the whiskers. It's latched itself on, and it seems quite fat, so it's already gotten a little bit of blood out of this lioness. But you can see she's using that rough tongue just to get rid of any parasites that may be on her, and that's part of this grooming process. I wouldn't be surprised we're going to see them all starting to stand up and move to exactly where the cubs are. It's probably quite shady in the background there, and this light is just starting to hit where they've been lying this morning so far, so it's obviously getting a little bit hot for them. I can feel the sun on my back is starting to heat up a little bit, and that's why they are all going into the shade. See the other lioness in the background there, just moving around a bit. She's just eating a little bit of grass, and so this is quite common for lioness, or lions should I say. After they've had a good meal, you'll find that sometimes they eat grass, and that will trigger them to often regurgitate, which means they get rid of all the bone and fur and hooves that they are unable to digest, and it just keeps their stomach in a very healthy condition. So it's not uncommon to see grazing lions. It does happen from time to time. I promise you they are not vegetarians. Like I said this morning, some of you were lucky enough to see on the Arathusa dam cam them killing a impala and feasting on that. But an impala between all these lionesses is very, very little. It's not going to, or all these mouths, including the cubs, it's not going to go very far, unfortunately. So you'll find that the cubs are going to be still probably quite hungry. But with their pride during the summer months, you'll often find this is what happens, is that the lions start to go into a situation where they will start feeding more and more of smaller prey animals, and they'll then start hunting things like impalas and kudu until the winter comes, because at the moment now, the buffalo that are in this area, because of the grass that's around, they've fed so heavily on that grass that the buffalo have become very strong and very powerful, whereas when it comes into winter, because of the lack of grass, the buffalo lose condition, and so they'll then start turning their attention more towards buffalo. Now, Sam, you're wondering if male lions care for the cubs. They don't actually. They I suppose they do in a way, actually. They are territorial and they hold the territory, which means they keep other males out, which ensures the safety of the cubs with the pride that are within that boundary. So as long as they're actively protecting that area, then they are keeping those cubs safe. But in terms of actual day-to-day fathering, if you want to call it, so providing food or protection day to day, then generally no, the males are very seldom actually with the pride. The Birmingham boys, as far as I know, haven't been with these females in over a week, and so the only reason that they are caring for the young is by just providing a safe territory for the Nkuhuma females to be able to move around in without any stress or strain, and to be able to keep their cubs safe from that. But the actual mothering and looking after the cubs in terms of day-to-day feeding is all done by the females. The males themselves play no part in that. But look at this grooming, isn't this amazing? And like I say, the light is perfect. It's just the soft golden morning light, and it kind of lends to the mood of these lions. So that little misty morning, it's a sort of slow, sleepy morning, and these girls are just kind of taking it easy. I wonder what's piquing the interest of the one in the back there. She's still sniffing around at her bush, still kind of looking and seeing, and there's one cub that's curious as well, wants to know what mom is up to and why mom is in that area. You can see it's also got its nose up, sniffing around, so it's probably wondering what's going on as well. But isn't this amazing? It's always so good to catch up with the Nkuhuma Pride. They're a pride that we used to see a lot of, and lately they've been spending more and more time to the west, and so we haven't seen them nearly as much as we would like to. So always great to be catching up with them and seeing them again. So Aaron, it's quite an interesting question, and one that is quite pertinent when it comes to lions. You're wondering if they hunted last night and killed, will they hunt again during the day? Well, yes, lions are one of those animals that are very opportunistic, so any time they can hunt, they will. You'll find that if, let's say, a weakened buffalo had to walk past you, this pride would go into full hunt mode. Also, if you have a look at their bellies are not exactly full, so even though they killed an impala, like I was saying earlier, an impala doesn't really go very far, and so you'll find that the cubs probably ate most of that, and these females got very little. You can see her belly's not swollen in any way, and if we hadn't known that they killed that impala, you would almost say that they haven't eaten last night. So they most definitely, if they see any sign of food roaming around here, will definitely try and hunt. The thing about lions is that they more prefer to hunt at night because of the senses that they have. They have very, very keen eyesight at night. That, coupled with the fact that the darkness provides a cover for them, and it becomes harder for the prey animals, because the prey animals' eyesight during the day and sense of smell and hearing is very good, but at night that sense of sight is dulled completely, and so the advantage becomes more with the lioness or the lions than it does with the antelope, and so that's why they tend to hunt more at night. But it's not to say that they won't hunt during the day. Isn't that amazing? Look how beautiful that picture is. So those of you that like to take screenshots, it's very, very nice shots in this morning light, and those little interested cubs climbing around in the background there as well. So some really cool shots that you can send to us on #SafariLive. But they seem quite interested in something. I wonder if they haven't heard something else moving around. It is obviously, because we're very close to a lodge, there's going to be people that are going to be moving around between the rooms. Now, we're right off the western side of the lodge, so we're not actually got any people moving between us here, but still there might be some sort of movement that they're picking up. Also, it could be some sort of prey items. We're not too far from a small little pan that animals often like to come and drink at, so maybe they've heard something down below close to that pan, and that's why they have become so alert. You can see all of them have perked up their ears and are facing in the same direction. Right, so Michael, you're wondering how many lionesses we have with us at the moment. There's only 3 that I can see. So there's 3 lionesses. It looks like Amber Eyes and the young female are missing again. So this is not uncommon practice. And the other day when I had them, which was on Tuesday night, was the last time I saw them, we had all 5 together with the 6 cubs. And then we came to do some of the camera tests that we were doing this week, and it seemed that they had already split during the night. So when we came back after our dinner, Amber Eyes and the other female had split off, and these three with the cubs had gone their separate ways. So I'm sure they will come back together again. It's just at that stage now where I'm sure Amber Eyes and the younger female are either looking to mate or looking for potential den sites. I was trying to look the other day to see if anyone was showing signs of pregnancy, but it didn't really look like it. So it might just be that they're looking for mating, and that's why they've gone off on their own. Look at that. Yes, you are a big little cub. Big little doesn't make sense, does it? But it is looking very... It didn't really look like it, so it might just be that they're looking for mating, and that's why they've gone off on their own. Look at that. Yes, you are a big little cub. Big little doesn't make sense, does it? But it is looking very deflattened. So if you were tracking these lions in a grassy area like this where you can't really see their footprint, you got there. And it's a good way to determine the age of that area that they've lay in. Alright, so we're going to see what these lionesses are busy watching, and while we try and do that and get ourselves into a bit of a better position, let's go across to Taylor and see how she's doing in Cheetah Plains. Indeed, they've been giving us the runaround a little bit. They went through this horrible drainage line that we couldn't cross, so we had to go all the way around, and we've only just gotten back to them again after sort of 15 minutes of driving. So it's not easy where they are now. They're busy walking along this undulating terrain on the edge of a little drainage area, and so it's quite difficult to actually keep up with them. Now we've got one lioness that's here, there's another lioness that's a little bit in front of us, and all the cubs are just on the other side as well. So they're quite spread out at the moment, and I think that they're looking around for something. They've definitely picked up the scent or smell or heard something, because they keep looking into the same direction and keep staring with quite a bit of intent. And they haven't settled this morning. It's already quite warm, but they're still not settled. They're getting up and moving. So I don't know if maybe they've spotted something and they're now on the lookout for food. Like I say, that impala between the 9 of them was not really a very big meal. But you can see how in this area it is really suited to these lions moving around. Look at how long the grass is. So now she's walking out in the open a little bit, but you'll see she starts to go into a little thicker area and they just disappear completely. It becomes really tough to see them. Also, the coloration of the grass, when these lions lie flat, it is a perfect place for them to ambush. So if they've spotted something that they potentially want to hunt, it would be quite interesting to see what it is. I know we did see some nyala a little bit earlier when we were driving back towards these lions, so I wonder if that's not maybe what they've heard. Here comes one of the other lionesses. Now, I'm sure the cubs will all start filtering in one after another, because they were with that third lioness that joined. That's who they were with, and so I'm sure they're going to start making an appearance. Mary, all 6 are here as far as I've seen. I will have to count again just to make 100% sure. It's obviously quite difficult with this grass that we're in, as they kind of move around and difficult to keep track of all of them. But as far as I know, all 6 are here. Just now when they were lying down together, I think I counted 6, but I will check just to make sure. You can see all the 3 females are there together now, so I'm sure the cubs are going to come slowly. I can actually see the cubs are starting to come from the right, so they're not going to be visible just yet, but they'll come shortly. But they look very unsettled. I think they're in 2 minds, whether to be sleeping or whether to go and pursue whatever they've heard up in the distance. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if a buffalo just appeared somewhere in front here? That would be quite something. Although I think with just the 3 females and in the condition that the buffalo are in currently, I think they'll try and probably avoid hunting buffalo. And just the 3 of them is not going to be strong enough to be able to bring down these healthy buffalo that we have at the moment. If all 5 were here, then maybe. And if there was a Birmingham boy present, then most definitely. But I reckon that there's not enough of them to start tackling big buffalo bulls. But you never know. Lions can surprise you. I'm going to try to do my best at not hitting any stumps as we go through this long grass. few stumps here and there that we have to negotiate though. Where did those cubs go? Now, I know the cubs were here on my right hand side, so I just want to be a little bit careful about where I go. Looks like we've decided to settle in the shade after all. So we're going to just position ourselves so that we can see them. So you can see they've just sat in the shade now, and I think they're just waiting for the cubs to join. Maybe the cubs have learnt that this is the signal that the moms want to hunt, and that's why they've stayed back a little bit. The way that the three of them were walking forward, maybe the cubs think that there's a hunt going on, and they're being very patient and clever and sitting at the back waiting, which is the way that they should do it. See, this lion is to the side here. She is staring back and waiting for them to come. Aaron, well, this is a good question because lions are a little bit different than some of the other animals. He's asking whether the females care for all the cubs or just their own. Well, they care for all of them. So what you'll find is that they will have preference towards their own cubs, so they'll make sure their own cubs are fed first and have milk and are looked after, but they will help out with the mothering of the others too. So they do allosuckle, which means that they will allow the cubs to suckle from their different mothers or from themselves if they are not the mother, and then they will also help in protecting those cubs. So let's say something like a hyena had to run in now, all three females will attack that hyena and try and look after their cubs as best as possible. So they definitely do help out. When it comes to mothering, they all look after each other's. But they definitely do show preference to their own cubs. So in a situation where all the cubs are together, then you'll find that the females will be a lot more tolerant of their own. So they'll allow their own cubs to climb all over them and to mess around. Whereas with the other females' cubs, they'll be a little bit more grumpy and chase them away. But they definitely will help in the protection of those little ones, as well as even providing nutrients for them. Right, so these guys seem to be settling down a little bit. I'm just going to stick around with them for a while and see where they go. And while we do that, I believe Taylor's found their favorite food item. So let's go across and see what it is. Taylor, unfortunately, has got no comms, so we're going to stay with the lions. And you can see the little cubs have appeared as well. So they've come out and are making their way towards moms and coming to see what's going on. And I suppose I can't really call them cubs these days. They're getting so big. Little sub-adults would be probably almost the term that we would use for them, although they still have those kind of cubbish appearance with the big ears and big paws. They haven't quite grown into all of that just yet. How many have we counted there so far, Viam? That's 3, 4, 5 that we've got so far. Is that right? 6. There we go. So all 6 are here. And there's the little one at the back. So that's good news that all 6 are still around. They're doing really well. They're looking healthy, especially the older ones. They're really not showing any more signs of that mange that we were seeing around the winter periods. They're mostly clean of it, except the youngest one. The youngest one's still got a bit of scarring around the leg areas and looks a little bit tatty in places. You hear them talking to one another. So they're making those soft little cub sounds as they greet the females who are lying in the shade. So you can see the little one. There we go, look at that, a little greeting, just to say hello. Got to be respectful towards mom or aunt, depending on who she is. You can see the little cubs are quite clever. They know where the best shade is, so they've completely gone past the first female because she's lying in not the best shade that there is, and they've all gone to the other female who's positioned herself far better. and they've all taken up a nice little bit of shade for themselves. And look, she's growling now because they're all lying all over her. Look at that, isn't that amazing? You can see she's just showing her teeth a little bit, and a little bit of a lashing out, and that's to say, enough, I don't want to be dealing with you lot right now, I'm not in the mood. You've been far too boisterous this morning, so I'm going to show that I'm not happy. And look at those eyes. As they say, if looks could kill, that's one of those stares that she's got. But as soon as all the little cubs settle down, you'll find that so will she, and the tail will stop flicking, and her growling will stop, and she'll probably start to fall asleep again. Look at that. You can see how much bonding does take place amongst the pride. They all flop down on one another and they rub up on one another. It's just to reaffirm those bonds and to keep that pride bond very, very strong. Right, so Miss McCurdy has got her comms back, so let's go across to her and see what the Nkuhuma's favourite food item is. Indeed, our favourite pride of lions has decided that is it for the morning. They have found themselves a shady spot and everybody is now fast asleep. There's only one lioness that has got her head up and is busy just watching around, but otherwise they are all very, very sleepy at this stage, which is about right, given that it is getting very, very hot. So I think what Taylor is going to find is probably a sunburn this morning. It will be quite warm if she had to drive around for any longer. It is very, very hot today. So I think that is it for us with the Nkuhumas. I think we're going to leave them here and let them have a nice rest, and we're going to come back this afternoon and see if they're going to be up and moving and maybe doing a bit of hunting. So we're definitely going to try and come back this way later. But it was a very pleasant morning with them. They were quite delightful at times. They were up on a termite mound at one point, and saw a little bit of grooming when we first arrived in that beautiful sun. It means that we had quite a good morning with them. So I think let's carry on. Like I say, it is very, very warm, so I don't think that they're going to be doing too much more this morning. Thank you, girls.